Hello, everybody. This is Bill McKibbon. I wish I could be there with you. I was baptized in a Congregational church and grew up in it and appreciated the denomination immensely. And I more appreciate the work that people doing across denominations and across faiths to try and grapple with this question of financing climate change. I sort of launched this big divestment movement in 2012 with a piece that I wrote for Rolling Stone. And it laid out the essential fact that the fossil fuel industry plans in their business plans, in their SEC filings, in their annual reports, they've made very clear that they plan to dig up and burn about 5 times as much carbon as any scientist thinks would be safe to do. And once you know that, then you know that these are, in a sense, rogue companies. And it's not okay in moral terms to try and profit off their commitment to the destruction of the planet. That's been the basic underlying theme of this divestment campaign that's become the largest corporate campaign of its kind in history. We're at $8 trillion now worth of endowments and portfolios that have divested in part or in whole. And as you know, many entire denominations, entire dioceses, even the World Council of Churches have divested, along with huge pension funds from New York City and London and Paris, and the sovereign wealth fund of Norway, which is the biggest pool of investment capital on earth, and the Rockefellers' fortune. They were the first oil fortune on earth, now divested from oil, and the entire country of Ireland, all its public assets, and so on and so forth. As time has gone on, we've learned some other things that you all should be taking into account. One of them is that divestment has an enormous impact. It's not just a way to raise attention, though that is very true. It also has had a stunning level of impact. Shell Oil, in its annual report last year, called it a material risk to its business. The coal industry, meeting in Houston earlier this year, was a remarkable story in Politico, where one executive after another explained that they could no longer raise money for expansion because too many funds had divested from coal. Those are powerful achievements in a world where we can't get much done politically for fairly obvious reasons. So that's the first bottom line. The second bottom line is we've learned that people who were smart enough to divest are making out like bandits. The fossil fuel sector has underperformed the rest of the market dramatically over the last 5 years. And there's a reason for that. There's a better technology, sun and wind, that's eating their lunch. Most of the growth in electricity generation around the world now is going not to fossil fuel, but to renewable energy. The writing's on the wall, and that's why these stocks are languishing. The third thing, and I think this is pretty important for religious communities too, is that we've learned a lot in the last few years about just how much the fossil fuel industry has been willing to lie to maintain its position. Great investigative reporting from the LA Times and the Columbia Journalism School and elsewhere have made it clear that the fossil fuel industry knew everything there was to know about climate change 30 years ago. In the 1980s, Exxon, biggest company on earth, many great scientists, its product was carbon. Of course it was going to find out, and it did find out. Its executives believed what the scientists were telling them. They began building all their drilling rigs to compensate for the rise in sea level they knew was coming. But what they didn't do was tell any of the rest of us. Instead, they spent 30 years, they and the entire fossil fuel industry, and billions of dollars building this architecture of deceit and denial and disinformation that's kept us locked in an utterly sterile debate for 30 years about whether or not global warming was real. A debate that both sides knew the answer to at the beginning. It's just one of them was willing to lie, and it became the most consequential lie in human history. It cost us 3 decades, and it can't cost us any more because we don't have any more decades. So we need you now to stand up, not to have study groups, not to have 3-year consultations. We need people to act effectively now. to stand up to the fossil fuel industry, to stand up to, well, what in the Hebrew Bible we call the powers and principalities. And in our time, there's no power or principality more important than this richest industry on earth. So thank you so much for taking leadership here. And I just wish you Godspeed in this most important of journeys. And I'll look forward to getting to be with you in person before too long. Thank you.